Alright guys, welcome back to VALORANT News. Rostermania is going crazy right now and more drama going on last night with Demon1 potentially revealing what team he might be trying to go to next, but also big talking points about salaries, what evil geniuses were paying, what Fnatic are currently paying, and what might be sustainable for the near and future terms. Very much enjoy to your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoy, subscribe if you're new as always. This I thought was pretty funny from Boaster saying that like we lost champs, an absolute Boaster masterclass, so they didn't get affected by the roster curse, which has, let's be honest, affected Ascend in 2021, Loud in 2022, and now Evil Genius is here in 2023. Now, Team RRQ, Indonesian-based organization, have signed Estrella, a Korean initiator player. A little bit surprising. People were expecting them to sign a duelist, and again, like RRQ are doing this thing where they sign players, and their fans are like, why are you not signing players from our region? You know what I mean? But still, a little bit controversial one, but things can change. I believe he was a player linked to Detonation, actually. But that is clearly no longer going to be the case. Now, Thief of Moist Esports has signed something. This could be anything. This could be trolling. We never really know. Flyer does say that it was fun playing with you. Congrats, can't wait to see you on the big stage. And they do the whole, like, you know, Fast and Furious parting of the ways thing. So where's Thief going? In the spreadsheets, he hasn't really been linked anywhere yet. Maybe there's a chance he even joins Evil Geniuses, because I don't know what EG are doing right now, but their players are likely gone. So they've got a big rebuild on their hands, and Thief could be a good target. I kind of hoped that a lot of the Moist Esports guys would stay together because they were such a fun team to watch at the end of last season, and maybe they could even do something better, win Ascension, right? It would be a nice story. But yeah, Flyer we think is going to go, maybe 100 Thieves, maybe Cloud9, some possibilities on the table there as well. Now, Disguised Toast Team, DSG, they're also going to run it back again. I also saw this from Demon1, can I come back, he says, because you guys, if you don't know the story, Demon1 actually trialed for DSG at the start of last season. They played EG in a scrim, and Demon1 smoked EG in this scrim. And then EG reached out to Disguised Toast and were like, or reached out to Demon1 and were like, yeah, we're going to poach you. So you're now coming to us. And unfortunately, Toast and DSG missed out on this player who went on to do great things. Let's not beat around the bush for that Evil Geniuses roster. Now, John QT, formerly of M80, well, still currently of M80 on his Twitter page, but they literally released him the other day officially, and he's signed a new deal. So this is Sentinels, we believe, with 99.5% confidence, unless they've had a dramatic change of heart over the last couple of days. Now, lots of bait flying around. You've just got to be, cognizant of some of this stuff. As Zel says there, I'm not going to read it out. You guys know how it works at this point. Zel says is a prime offender, I gotta say, for stuff like this. And even as Valin says, maybe what he's saying here is legit, but it could be another baiting masterclass, because as he says, some of these bait roster tweets by pros are actually real rosters, but you'll never know the difference. But I think he's just doing this for a little bit of impression farming. And even as Chet says, Marv, yay, FNS Victor Crashies, the old Optic team making the return on NRG. We don't believe that's the case. If you guys missed last night's video, Marv, Victor Crashies, Aspas, and Sadak is the current rumor, but still, as of yesterday's Flynn spreadsheet, Aspas is still potentially an option for Bleed, and Bleed can spend more money than anybody. So this is where, especially with the salaries, and we're going to discuss it in a second, if you are getting a mad offer that you think you're probably never going to see in your lifetime again, it's difficult to turn that down, given that even players such as Demon1 on the World Championship winning team are getting dropped on their necks by Evil Geniuses. And even as Boaster said in a tweet yesterday, it was like, well, I always tell my teammates, enjoy this moment on the stage, make the most of it right now, because you never know if you're going to get another one. Like, things are very fickle in this esports world. Now let's talk about Fnatic then and their roster payment situations, because Exalt says orgs found out how much Fnatic were paying and giving their teams and players ultimatums. Take this salary or don't play in franchising. Not my problem. Now this is a big talking point, and I saw some discussion on this a couple of days ago actually on the comment section of a video talking about the effectively collusion between teams, and this certainly exists to a certain extent. The teams have realised to some degree that, let's say all the teams agreed between them and had a bit of a pact, they're only going to pay the minimum salaries, and the players couldn't really do anything about that. The reality is things often are different, and certain teams will pay more to get the best players, and it always will be that way to some degree. Does it mean that some players get screwed over by stuff like this? Yes, and as far as I'm concerned, regardless of whether there is collusion between teams or whether organizations know that Fnatic are paying this, therefore I'm going to offer my players this, and if they say no, well, I'll get somebody else anyway because they're going to have to accept some sort of offer. The reality is, though, that these players don't necessarily bring in as much revenue for the organization as they're spending anyway. Like, there has to be a correction at some point, regardless of the reason why you think that is. You know, if the organization can't get the sponsors, if the players aren't making great content for the organization and stuff like this, you just can't justify long-term some of the salaries these guys have been getting. And that's why we always say, if you're a player, when you're at the peak of your powers, you've got to be making content. Build up your stream, build up your YouTube presence, so you've got something else to fall back on. But also, so you've got a much more complete package to sell to teams when they want to buy you or when they want to give you a salary. You can be like, look, you're not just getting, let's say, tens. You're not just getting me for my abilities, but you're getting me for my brand and my content, all this other stuff as well. And therefore, you command a higher salary anyway, in addition to all the extra money you're making from doing your own content. So, you know, this is the tricky spot that esports finds itself in. Now, Fnatic was kind of getting roasted for this, right? Because Exalt's basically saying, like, Fnatic aren't paying much at all. But it's kind of a known thing that EMEA, the salaries are nowhere near as high as NA, which is, you know, maybe EMEA is getting paid sub 10k a month. I don't really know. Maybe average, difficult to say. Americas is a different story. 20k plus, a lot of money's going around over there. And as Fnatic say, look, they try and manage things in a more healthy manner. The regional pay disparity is no secret. Like, so really there's nothing to this, is what he's trying to say. But the interesting thing is in esports right now is that we don't know any of the salaries. You know, many regular sports, and it's a bit different there. You've got salary caps in place, there's other things happening. But, you know, most regular sports, you get to know what these players are getting paid. Even Calypso here says, kind of maybe talking about the old Envy team, but whatever he's discussing, saying that 3 years ago, players are making 20k a month before international lands even existed. So, you know, I think it goes to show that the salaries, not just for the players as well, like a lot of the executive suites, the C-suites for these organizations are also getting paid arguably egregiously too much, and the burn rate of these teams is pretty mega, as we saw Sentinel's numbers not that long ago, right? 700, was it 695,000 a month they're burning through, apparently, according to their figures. So some people would say, what about making all these salaries public? And it is an interesting one, because the potential benefit for the players is they get to see what everyone's making. So they know where they are, they know what this guy's making, they know, okay, well, if this guy's making this, then I can ask for this type thing. But Shazam says, the players already kind of understand this. They're already talking to each other. They're already open enough to help understand the market. And, you know, the players are generally going to be against this. They don't really want people to know how much they're making, right? Because imagine that Shazam's on 15k a month, I don't know, and he misses a shot. And he's going to get all the Twitter replies, 15k a month for this. Yeah, how it goes, right? So the players aren't really going to want it, and maybe it is different in pro sports. So I'm not really sure what my opinion on this is. You know, as a fan of stuff like this, I'm obviously going to be in favor of it being public just because it's more interesting. But, you know, I totally get it from the players and the team's perspective to say no. Now, this is where we get some further discussion on evil geniuses, because George Geddes did a tweet yesterday that said, pretty much, if EG was to have re-signed their players on the same contracts they were on for the most recent season where they just won champs, they would have been the highest earning team in the entire league. Now, he then said, that's actually wrong. That's not true. Now, it doesn't mean to say that they weren't still getting paid a lot, because, but then again, he did say that, well, his previous tweet was wrong, so do you necessarily buy that this tweet is true? I don't know, that's up to you. But as he says, his tweet was wrong previously. They all earned around 25k, so we're talking $25,000 per month per player on the main roster, 4.5k a month on the sub roster. Game Changers team on around 7k. Keyword around, haven't seen the contracts. EG has to pay for housing, same with other esports orgs as well. And that's the other thing, right? The base rate for this is probably lower, but you know, the players get housed, they get, you know, fed, maybe if you're NRG. So, you know, some obviously positive perks being an esports player. But, you know, obviously maybe their salary is slightly reduced on this. So difficult to say whether this is true or whether this is not true. But Demon1 says, I wish I made anything close to 25k. So, and to be fair, we didn't get any of the other EG guys like Ethan replying and saying, nah, this is cap, George. Now, for Demon1, it is probably not true just because he came in on a subcontract, then they brought him up to the starting team. There might have been an arrangement there where, okay, if we do bring you up, we're going to pay you a bit more than your 4.5k to be on the sub bench, but likely not up to this standards, right? So, this is the thing for Demon1. Now he's been, best player in the world right now. He's been dropped kind of by EG because they, can't afford the salaries. They want to make changes, whatever. Maybe he goes back there anyway, but he didn't get to, like the other players, they got to reap the benefits of these big salaries for a season. Demon1 didn't necessarily, but hopefully he will going forwards. And this is now where he's considering his options, and he tweets out multiple different flags. So obviously US, Brazil, Europe, and then China. Doesn't really look at the APAC region necessarily, but China feels somewhat unlikely, even though Marv does say in the reply, say, come on over, buddy. So you gotta wonder whether Marv's, what he's trying to say here. Now, Marv rethinking to NRG, right? So, and look, to be fair, I mean, maybe there's even a spot on NRG. Let's say Aspas takes the bleed offer, because we think Aspas has the bleed offer, and if that's just like so much money that Aspas can't refuse it, then NRG would need a duelist, and they could get Yay, and they could run the Optic team with Victor Crashies, Marved, Yay, but Sadak instead of FNS, which is viable, but they could also get Demon1, right? I mean, this is one of the interesting points. So, yeah, Marved and Demon1 having a bit of a discussion here I thought was interesting to say the least, and then Marved also tweets this out from the old Optic team as well, looking at, either saying goodbye to it or looking at a potential reunion. There will be questions raised as to how good a team of Marved, Victor Crashies is in the year 2024, but look, if there's a good IGL to get the best out of them and maybe has a new philosophy on the game than FNS does, that maybe has kind of run its course with those guys over the last couple of years, still feel like FNS is a really good IGL, then we shall see. But that's kind of how things stand. We don't know where Demon1 is looking to go, but you've got to think that a lot of the big teams, it's not going to be Sentinels, we believe they know what they're doing here. It's probably going to be teams that can afford something a little bit more, and this is why we've got Aspas linked to Leviathan, we've got Aspas linked to NRG, we've got Aspas linked as well over to Bleed Esports. So, there's no, actually, technically, at least as of recording, Flynn's, he has a question mark on Bleed to Aspas, and that's what he considers to be a possibility, whereas for Leviathan and NRG, it's actually an unlikely possibility. So the feeling is that Aspas to NRG, despite how much of a super team that looks, is not exactly for sure, and maybe there's a spot for Demon1 there. That's kind of what I'm looking at the moment as a very interesting possibility here. So that's what we're going to talk about for today. Might be another emergency video tonight. We shall see what happens over the next couple of days, but yeah, make sure you are subscribed, and I'll just run through quickly if you guys want to like pause and check this out, what the spreadsheets currently say. This is the EMEA region. Few interesting things going on here, but more to come. This is the Pacific. We just looked at this. Estrella, of course, not on detonation. We know that he has been signed now by RRQ in a kind of surprising fashion, to be honest. And this is China, just for interest, but a couple of the teams, we don't really know what's going on yet. So hit the like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. Take care, and I'll see you next time.